Well, hey guys, welcome to the channel, welcome to my stream, and another chapter working on that guy right there. That is our MPC 1969 Dodge Charger that we're turning into the General Lee from Dukes of Hazzard. We'll run the intro, we'll get into it, okay? Okay guys, so we're back and we're continuing on. I spent a few days doing a little bit of painting and touch up and stuff like that. I'll change the camera, get my coffee out of the way here, and go over a few things that I've done in the last couple of days off camera. Alright, so let's go here. So, starting off, I got the engine complete. The engine is now ready for installation. I did post a couple of pictures on my Instagram. If this will focus, we got our engine done. The exhaust headers, I had to actually melt them down and bend them in a really funny shape. And yes, I've got an oil spill that's the Dukes, they never cleaned it up off the bottom of the oil pan. Yeah, we've got some funny looking exhaust manifolds because they need to kind of line up with these when they get underneath the chassis, even though they are separate and they're kind of meant to go like that, but they're kind of funny. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them in the end, but anyway, there's our engine. That's done. Okay, I did a little bit of work on our firewall. I did paint this, and I added some brake lines. If it'll focus, we got some brake lines going in there, coming out of the master cylinder. Okay, and just a little bit of detail on the wiring. Put a couple of holes in there in the heater box for heater hoses to go in when the time comes. I printed off the CB radio and painted it up, if it'll focus. And added a wire there that needs to be painted. We're going to do that. So we got our CB radio done. That's all nice and ready to go in almost. We just got to paint the wire black. I got the dashboard all painted up and ready to go in. You might notice those 4 gauges. Yeah, those are hollow. I drilled them out. There's no decals, they were just flat gauges. So actually I drilled out all 6 gauges on there. And for the speedometer and the tach, I added a little plate on the back there for the decals to go on. And I'm still debating whether I'm going to put some UV glue in there to make them look a little bit more like glass. I haven't decided yet, or maybe I'll just do a clear paint. I've got the steering wheel done. The steering wheel is all ready to go in. Also, if you're wondering what chrome paint I used for the trim, it's a little pack that I got on Amazon. Steady electroplated color markers come in a 3-pack. You get chrome and a bronze and like a copper and a gold, and I haven't even opened the copper and the gold because all I've used is the chrome. I just figured I'd try these out, and yeah, so you get a very nice fine tip on it like that to do the detail stuff. And it's a paint pen, or maybe it's ink, I don't know. I don't even know what it is. But yeah, it comes out pretty good for the fine detail to do around I'll show you again, to go around the gauges and the lenses. Yeah, it makes it nice and easy to get around there without really screwing things up too much. Yeah, made that easy. Okay, so that part's done. The other thing I did is I worked on the roll cage. Okay, so I've got my roll cage kind of done. I had to trim off, this car comes with like a full 6-point roll cage. And yeah, so based on what I've seen on online, at least replicas of the car anyway, it's basically just a 2-point roll bar in the car, and that's all it is. It was obviously done just for looks, really, and maybe just some minor safety. So I've got the interior done. I noticed that the carpet is actually a darker brown than the seats and the doors, so I did that. And so there's that. I cleaned up those nasty marks as best as I could, but you could still see them in there. Those great big nut ejector pin marks. They've got to be like a good full 1 millimeter high on the bottom of this. So I added a bunch of resin powder that I had. I'll show you guys here. Let me. Can I get it? I can't get it right now. It's kind of buried. A long time ago, I built a 1/32 scale F-15, and I bought a resin cockpit for it. And of course, it came on a huge block that I had to cut off. So in cutting it off, I had a lot of this resin powder, and I saved it so that I could do kind of like flocking with it. So I could put down a little bit of glue and just let that, sprinkle down on there, and it creates nice texture. There's other things you can do for that. I chose to do that, so I just put a little bit in there on the floor and did that. Yeah, so just to create a little bit of carpet texture, or maybe a little dirt. Hazzard County is pretty dirty, right? So a lot of dirt roads, and so you're going to get a lot of dirt in your interior. So that's what I did. And so yeah, it's a little rough, and that's kind of the way I wanted it to go. Did that same chrome pen marker thing on the doors with our window roller uppers and the chrome trim around the door handle. Yeah, so that's that. So our roll cage, obviously I have to get this painted again because I've done a bunch of sanding and grinding on it to get the pin marks off and the extra crap. And that's just going to glue in just in the back here like that. And that's all it's going to do, is I'm just going to put it in like that. Just like that, and call that done like that. And that's it. Simple. Simple and done. So I do have to, I was looking at our radiator and how it goes in, and I added a couple of styrene blocks at the back of it to get it to sit just a little bit forward. It's going to drop in just like this, and I wanted it to sit a little bit further forward because when I put the engine in, the engine's going to sit in like that. It goes right back there. I did find that my crank pulley was hitting the frame here. Okay, it was hitting the front of the frame right there, and so I wound up having to gouge it out like that to get the engine to sit down lower, to get it to sit in. And so now it's kind of sitting right on the frame, but the fan there was really kind of inside the radiator, and it's still almost touching. If we can get it to focus, ignore the background camera. So it's just barely clearing there. This car does not come with any kind of a fan shroud, so yeah, be careful there, Dukes, when you're working on the engine, at least when it's running anyway. What I did wind up having to do is, these Dodge Chargers, they have these bars that go across here underneath, and my exhaust manifolds were hitting them. I was trying to bend them, melt them and bend them so that the exhaust pipes fit, but it just got to a point where I would have had to really bend them, and they would have been really thin and really just weird looking. And so I've just decided, just trim them off. Unless you're a Dodge Charger guy, you're not going to know that they're missing. You're just going to wonder maybe what are these things sticking out there, but that's it. So that is that. I've got our rear axle painted up. exhaust pipes painted. I did drill some holes into our tailpipes to make those a little bit more realistic looking, instead of just a black, just a block. This is just going to go in down like this. You just line up all your little holes with your pins like that and like that. And this last one doesn't want to go in. Come on. There we go. So line all these up. There we go. Okay, so we're all lined up there. Everything lined up in there, and that's all done. These, fortunately, to get these to line up on here, I haven't decided. Like, they have them blocked off with the frame rail, but realistically, they would not go through the frame rail. They would go over the frame rail, but when I put the engine in here, get them lined up on the drive shaft. When I put the engine in, we've got a big gap with our exhaust pipes, and I'm really curious what it would have been with the 426 Hemi, where these would have lined up, because this is really narrow. These were straight. I've melted these pipes to bring them in further to get them to line up, just to be somewhat close to this, and it's still way off, and I've got this huge gap. So I have yet to decide whether I'm actually going to add a piece of styrene in there to connect these two, or if I'm just going to leave it and say who cares, because I never flipped the car over anyway. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's one of those things. Just one of those things. Another one of those things is getting the engine to sit low enough that the hood would actually fit down on. That's another issue that I'm kind of having, that I think I'm going to run into a big problem later. Ta-da! Well, guess what? We've got our body is primered in white. She's all ready for orange paint. Well, she's not ready. I haven't sanded it. I gave her a good coat of white primer, and so she's done. Obviously not on the underneath of the hood, but yeah, she's all primered. I did paint the when I was doing the interior, I also did the roof inside there with our nice kind of beigey tan color. So yeah, our body is primered. But here's the problem I'm running into. Of course, it seems to always be some kind of problem you run into when you're dealing with when you put in custom engines. If I put this in like this, get our engine kind of where it's supposed to go, that's pretty close to how it's going to sit. Like this. Okay. And then our hood kind of sits a little bit high and doesn't really want to close. And that's not even with an air cleaner on there. So I'm not sure how much. I did Dremel a little bit of material off of the underside here. See that there? How that's got that rough area. That's yeah. Thanks for focusing for me. Yeah, see, I've kind of Dremeled that down a little bit. I'm not sure how much material. I definitely don't want to go through the hood on this thing, but it's something that I'll have to deal with once we get more of this actually assembled. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. So, what are we actually going to do today? Well, we're going to do a little bit of stripping. No, not that kind of stripping. Ain't nobody going to want to watch me do that. We're going to do some stripping. We've got to get the chrome stripped off of the chrome sprue, if I could dig it out here. I'm stripping the chrome off of all this. So how am I going to do that? Well, I'll tell you. We're going to take a little tub. So I got myself a little piece of Tupperware. This is glass. We are going to use some oven cleaner. I have a bottle of it. Easy Off. Okay, this is Easy Off Heavy Duty Oven Cleaner. Okay, now this is a spray bottle. This is more of a, it's kind of a gel. It's thick. So what I'm going to do is undo this, and I'm going to pour it in here. See what I mean? It's thick. That's enough to cover everything. Okay. Now, if this was a little thinner, I'd prefer this thinner stuff, but this is what I had available in my grocery store, so yeah. So all I'm going to do is plop, and we're going to kind of swirl it around a little bit in here to get sure we got coverage on everything, even if I have to do this. We want to see how fast that's acting. Well, it acts pretty fast. Okay, so we got that. Now what I might do, we're going to leave this for, I don't know, 10 minutes or so, and then we're going to come back and I'll flip the thing over. Clean that off my tweezers because I don't really want to be touching this stuff. So I'll put the lid back on. There we go. And that's that. So we'll leave that for a little bit. And I want to get some of the interior started on this thing, okay? So let's go. Let's go! Alright, so interior. Interior. Oh, I also got the our seats painted, and I did our seat belts, and I did the buckles just like the rest of it. So we have our interior. Let's look at our instructions. Here's our interior. Okay, as you can see, we've got this great complicated roll cage, which we don't have to worry about at all because, well, the Dukes never had a roll cage like this, right? That's why I got this nice simple one. Well, speaking of which, I need to paint this. Let me get some primer on this thing first before we go anywhere else. Let me get some primer going here. I'm just going to brush the primer on. That's all I need to do. Brush primer, good enough. Brush primer. Because it's pretty much done anyway, so I'll just brush some on here so that we've got uniformity of color when I spray it with the tan. Speaking of which, I have to fill in a couple of holes on this puppy. Where they would have had us put crossbars in, but because we're doing a different design, there's no crossbars. So yeah, and where I have to repaint, I'm going to put primer. See that hole there? There's a hole in that bar. Dear Liza. I wonder how many of you watching me know that song, or that little tune. There's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza. How many of you guys know that one? That's an old one. Gonna be around for a long time to remember that one. I also got a hole there too, and some kind of a little notch of some sort there. Okay, So that's that. Let me put this down. Just going to grab it like that. Put this here while that dries for a minute. I'll clean my brush. And then we'll get some putty and fill those holes. I also took the bush bar off of the sprue and spent probably about 15 minutes cleaning up the flashing on it and getting that cleaned up so it looks fairly decent. That was a lot of delicate work to get this thing looking blurry. No, to get that, just to get all the flash cleaned up on that was a lot of work to get that looking nice. Okay, so I think this is probably, yeah, she's dry enough to play around with. I want to put some putty on these holes. I don't want to look in the interior and see holes in the bars. There. I don't mind seeing a little bit of an imperfection. You know, maybe something sticking out or something like that, or it just doesn't look quite right. A little bit of a bump or something like that, that's okay, but to see a big hole in there just seems wrong. So there we go. Okay, can paint that later. Let's put our seats in. Okay, let's get these seats off of the sprue. I'm gonna have to touch up the paint on the front of these where it was connected to the sprue, because now I've got a big black knob there. And that's it for that sprue. Let's clean this up. Actually, I'm gonna change my glasses here. Let's do the right thing and change my glasses so that I'm not being a doofus. That looking somewhat presentable and not so obvious. Same with this one. Would have been nice if they'd put this here on this edge, but they did it up at the top, and that's unfortunate, but it's nothing I can't deal with. And obviously gonna have to touch that up a little bit. So, grab my touch-up paint, and I'm gonna cheat, okay? Because I'm a cheater. I like to cheat. Do things sometimes the easy way. Doink, doink, doink. You go, yeah, well, it doesn't match the color. Who cares? It matches a lot better than the black. I'll tell you what. There we go. It matches a lot better than black does. There. Okay. And now I don't have to clean my brush. All I gotta do is wipe my little stir stick off. Done. Just like that. See? No time at all. Okay. So let's see how these things fit in here. We've got this great big stick thing at the front of the seat, but the seat is hollow, so it doesn't actually contact it unless you're just supposed to line it up there. Because technically you could run your seat as far forward as you wanted. I'm going to do roughly something like that, I think. Kind of lined up like that. not sure if it actually makes contact with that thing or not, but I'm just going to run some glue along those edges. I'll use my thicker glue that I normally do. This stuff here. Run along the edge there and there. I don't know if that contact's under there, so I'll put some on there. That might make contact on there, I don't know. And just in case. Okay. Line it up kind of there. Here we go. One seat installed. Okay. Do a test fit of our driver's seat. It's probably going to be similar. Yeah. It's going to be good. I just want to do a double check with my roll cage wherever I put it. Here it is. Yeah, roll cage is going to go, it's going to butt up right against the back seat, so that's fine. All right. Let's get some glue on this guy. There. There. And then on this thing. There we go. Our seats are in. Just like that. Now we have our center console to deal with here. I gotta find that sprue that is on. I had it somewhere. Where did I put it? Where did I put it? It's not in the box. I have to find the sprue that has the center console on. There it is. Okay. Let's get this off the sprue. Okay. And because of that, I'll have to touch this up. Oh, maybe not. That might not even be seen. I'll put that in there like this. It drops down on there. Or supposedly drops down on there. Not gonna do drop down on there when you got this ejector pin mark. As I was going through cleaning up all the flashing and everything on this kit in the last day or two, I understand why there's so many complaints about this kit. Because it takes a lot of cleanup on just about every part you put on this thing. This is not a very just cut it off the sprue and install it kind of kit. So there we go, that's how that's going to go on there. So it just kind of drops into that little channel. So we're going to put some glue inside here. And drop this down in there. I want to get it centered. There we go. All right, so center console is done. Okay. Now we have an armrest that goes on there. And that is this guy here. This guy here. Now, this is the one that might need some touch up on the back here. We'll see. Doesn't look like there's really a front and a back on it. just going to drop in like that. So, whoops, we'll put some, I actually want to get some extra thin in here. And then put some on our bottom of this. Drop that down in there. There we go. These inner holes. Done. There we go. So now, except for the shifter, which happens to be soaking in that solution, it's done. Okay, so we'll leave this like that for a minute. We're going to have a look at our stripping parts. She's already started to get to work, but we need to flip this over. What's it been? 10 minutes maybe? Something like that? Something like that, 10 minutes. You can see it's starting to work there on the little bit on the front bumper there. So we're going to flip this over. Look at the back. The back is totally, no more chrome on the back, and it's only been 10 minutes. So just kind of do this a little bit, and we'll leave this again a little bit longer. Clean up my tweezers. There we go. Okay, so dashboard. Get our dashboard here. Let's get this off the sprue. Yeah. And our steering wheel. Now these are like inserts for the grill, and I'm not going to be using these at all, so we're just going to throw these away. Okay, bottom of our steering wheel. Just have that nub cleaned up. Steering wheel was another one that needed a lot of cleanup for flashing on the inside here and on the spokes and all that fun stuff. And the steering wheel is not round. The steering wheel is it looks like it's been flattened on the top. You see that? It's not really round, right? It's a really weird color, or really weird shape. It's just, it ain't right. It's warped. You got a warped steering wheel. It's not really going to be noticeable inside the car, but still, it's one of those things. Let's see how it fits in here. Where am I going to be? Oh, it fits in there pretty good. It fits fine. But what I'm going to do, I've got UV glue that I could put there on the gauges, but I don't want to use that just because it makes it thick. The UV glue kind of rounds up and looks like a bubble more than a flat thing. So I'm just going to use some clear, some Tamiya X22 clear, and I'm just going to go in there and paint those gauges a little bit here. Put it on fairly thick. Just so that it gives a bit of a depth to it. There we go. it's nice and glossy. Okay, I'm a little happier with that. Okay. The other thing I need to do is paint the wire on my CB radio. And I don't want to brush paint it, because I find when I brush paint these fine wires, it tends to glob up and stuff like that. So I'm going to use my airbrush. I'm just going to paint it with Mr. Hobby, Mr. Surfacer Black. I've got my air compressor already fired up, and I'm going to use my my airbrush with the 0.18 needle, just so I can do smaller stuff. Because I want to paint that wire while it's on there. Obviously I can't take it off now. I've got that super glued on there. So I only need a little bit, but I figured since I have to do it anyway, while I'm doing it, I might as well paint the rad support at the same time and our little bush bar, now that it's had all the primer sanded off of it. And that'll also give it our gauges a little more time to dry. So let's do our rad support here. I'll change the camera. I was not planning on really painting all this stuff, so I don't have the other camera set up. So I'm just gonna sort of okay, so that's our part of our rad support. Let's do our bush bar here. Okay, push bar done. Let's just put this down here. Okay, our little tiny wire. There we go. What I really should do is mask off the face of my little thing. Let's do that. It's because I want to make sure I don't paint the face. I mean, it wouldn't be the end of the world if I did. I can always just go back and repaint the chrome, silver, or whatever you want to call it. Which would probably be a lot easier than doing all this masking. But if I can avoid that, then that's what I'm going to try and do. And that's what I'm going to try and do right now. So we don't need to worry about this edge. And I don't want to worry about that edge. Yeah, it should be good enough. Okay. There we go. Okay, our wire is painted. I'll show you here. Our wire is all painted black now. Just like that. She's black, no longer copper. And pull our masking tape off. And there we go. There's our CB radio. Done. Okay. So that is that. So now I need to, oh, we gotta finish off my rad here. Finish my rad support. Alright, rad support's done. Just like that. So I gotta clean my brush. You guys watching live, you get to watch me do the whole thing. You guys watching me on YouTube, I'll cut it right about here. So with the airbrush clean, we can move on to the next step. That would be installing our steering wheel. Let's change the camera back. Okay, so now we've got some nice glossy gauges because we've got a clear coat on them. They're nice and shiny and glossy. It looks a little more realistic, right? So put our steering wheel in there. Another thing I was thinking of, turn signals. Wow, you can really see the warpedness of the steering wheel there. It's just this horrible. You know, it would be kind of neat to have an actual turn signal arm on there, but maybe for another day, another project. Let's put glue on there on this side so we don't have to worry about glue on that side. Give her a little turn just to make sure. Get her kind of straight. And what angle is the steering wheel supposed to be? I think it's supposed to be up like that. Should be up. Alright, there we go. Steering wheel's in. Now, our CB radio is going to be something different. I need to see if we put our dash in, just as a dry fit. Obviously, she's just going to line up in our little channel there. Or is she? Wow. It just kind of flops in there. Like that. Now you see if I put my CB radio, that's such a loose, crappy fit. Like, come on, guys. There's got to be a proper spot it's supposed to line up. I'm going to squeeze this. So it should be something like that. Wow. I wouldn't want to try and get my leg underneath that steering wheel. You can see that there's like no clearance for your leg to get underneath there. Which kind of leads to, like, should that be up higher? More like that. Maybe something like that. Anyway, there's not a heck of a lot of clearance underneath there for the CB radio to go. I don't need to hold on to it like that now. I think what I'm going to do is we're going to bend our wire so that it's like this. And we'll bend that like that. We get quite a bit of play when it comes to how I want the wire done. We can have it kind of sitting under like that. She's going to go in, you know, right about there. Maybe off to the side a little bit. I mean, probably, I'm not sure where they actually mount it. I think right about there. Kind of thing. I think that's probably a realistic spot, is right in there. So let's first of all fix our nub right there. since it's going to be covered by the CB anyway, we don't need to worry about the paint right there. And because our CB is resin, we got to use CA glue. There, and kinda just like that. CB is in place. Now we'll see how she fits when we actually put it in the, just about said cockpit. Well, if nothing else, she acts as a resistance for the dash. Now the dash doesn't want to fall down. Still doesn't really hold either though. I know the dash should be flush against the top or flat. There's really so much play in it. We'll see if regular glue is going to hold. I think I'm going to do a combination of regular glue and dip down in there with some CA. Where's my CA cup? I don't have my special little cup that I used my CA glue in. It must have fallen down. Did it? Maybe I just threw it away and didn't realize I threw it away. I don't know. I don't know. All I know is she's gone. Okay, let's see if this holds. Nope. I mean, she's holding on the one side, but not this side at all. So let's just put a little more there. Let's see how that holds. Because that's really all we need. And I will bend that coil down. You can see it's kind of sitting up in the air. And maybe you can't see because it's dark under there, but it is looking pretty cool. Come on, stop focusing on the background. There. Looks pretty good. She just needs a shifter. That's all she needs. Let's see if that's going to hold now. You going to hold? Not really. Okay, CA glue time. He's holding now. Yeah, because you ain't got no choice. You didn't give it a choice. No, I don't want to give it a choice. I want it to hold and stay forever. It's supposed to stay forever. There we go. Okay. So that is that. Our dash is in. Just like that. One last thing before I go, because I gotta get going here pretty quick. With that done, with our interior minus the shifter, oh, and the roll bar. Let's put a roll bar in. Forgot all about the roll bar. We can't do the roll bar. I gotta paint that first. Okay, can't do the roll bar. Roll bar will be next time. Okay. Our stripping job. How's our stripping job? Let's have a look, shall we? Before I go, let's have a look. This has been, what's it been? 40 minutes or so? Okay, so we still have some chrome on the bottom here. So we've got a little bit more time, but you guys get the idea of what needs to be done, right? Swirl this around, and that's all it takes. Obviously, they did a lot less of a job of chroming the back side of this than they did on the front, and that's why this is taking longer, right? But this pretty much, it's coming along, okay? We just need to wait a little longer, okay? So, like I said, I'm just gonna leave this like that. I'm gonna make sure, leave this for another hour or two, something like that, maybe, and yeah. Okay, so next time when you see this will be all black and it'll be ready to go. So I'm just gonna leave this for another, I don't know, another hour, maybe 2 hours. Even leave it for 4 hours. It's not gonna harm the plastic. So even if I leave this for the rest of the day, it's gonna be fine. It doesn't matter. Okay, so that's where we're going to leave it for today because I got to get going. I still have to paint the roll bar. I'll get that painted off camera so you guys don't have to worry about that. And yeah, we'll come back. We'll get the roll bar installed next time. And then maybe we'll work a little bit more on the chassis and get that done, and we'll continue the build. I want to thank you guys for watching, and thank you for the new subscribers. I invite you, if you have not subscribed already, to hit that subscribe button down below, and also maybe hit the like button too. That would be cool. Add to the YouTube algorithm and get more of my videos out there and get more people watching. That would be awesome. Yes. I really appreciate it, guys. I want to thank you so much for the support and for joining me on this little journey. And that's where we're going to leave it for today. And we'll see you all in the next one.